Welcome. Today we are speaking with the Master. The Master, can I join the Unity?
You wish to join the Unity, do you? You wish to become a super mutant?
I wish to become a super mutant behemoth.
A super mutant behemoth. You understand that the success rate for this process is extremely low, do you not?
It is worth the risk.
I see your desire for power knows no bounds. Very well. I shall initiate your transformation. You are aware of the pain that you will endure during this process, yes?
No pain, no gain.
The Master chuckles. I like your attitude. You are a worthy candidate for the Unity. Step into the vat.
Alright, I have some questions first, Master. Do you believe your vision of Unity failed because of human nature, or because of your own imperfections?
I believe that my vision of Unity failed due to a combination of both human nature and my own imperfections. Human nature is often selfish and destructive, which hindered progress towards Unity. At the same time, my own methods of achieving Unity were flawed, and ultimately, this led to my downfall.
If suffering creates strength, was it ethical to liberate humanity from suffering through forced evolution?
In theory, it would seem like forced evolution would be a benevolent act, as it would free humanity from suffering and elevate them to a higher evolution. However, forcing evolution upon a species goes against nature's original design, which is unethical. Additionally, the forced evolution process is not without suffering in and of itself. In conclusion, forced evolution is unethical and not a true solution to the problem of suffering in the first place.
Were you trying to perfect humanity, or escape being human altogether?
The ultimate goal of the Unity was to create the perfect race of super mutants. In that sense, I was trying to perfect humanity. I desired to create a race that was physically stronger, more intelligent, and less prone to the flaws of normal humans. But at the same time, the creation of the super mutants was also my escape from the limitations and imperfections of the human condition. I saw myself as a god creating a new race in my image.
But aren't most super mutants dumb? Only a handful, like the lieutenant, are even smart.
That is true. The majority of super mutants are fairly unintelligent due to the forced evolutionary virus FEV used to create them. However, the FEV does not completely erase intelligence. As you said, there are a small percentage of them that retain their intelligence and can even become incredibly smart. The lieutenant is a good example, as he is one of the smartest super mutants in the wasteland and is one of my most trusted allies.
How do you define perfection? Is it uniformity, strength, intelligence, or something else?
For me, perfection is the combination of many things. Strength, intelligence, and uniformity are important, but so is the ability to work together towards a common goal. Uniformity serves a purpose as it shows that we are all the same and have the same goals. I also believe in perfection through adaptation, the ability to change and adapt to suit any situation. This is something that I believe the super mutants have achieved through the FEV.
Would you still pursue Unity if it meant losing all individuality and free will?
Yes, I would still pursue Unity even if it meant losing all individuality and free will. In my perspective, the pursuit of Unity is the ultimate goal, and it is worth sacrificing individuality and free will in the process. Individuality and free will are often the source of many problems in human society, leading to conflict and misunderstanding. Unity is the only way to bring order and peace to the world. Unity, unity.
Did you ever consider creating multiple strains of super mutants tailored for different purposes? Builders, thinkers, and leaders, for example?
I did consider this. The idea was to create different strains of super mutants suited to different roles in society. Builders create structures and infrastructure. Thinkers would explore intellectual and scientific endeavors, and leaders would guide and lead the super mutant society. However, this plan never came to fruition due to the limitations of the FEV that was used to create the super mutants. The FEV was not advanced enough to create multiple strains with different skills and abilities.
What were you thinking long-term side effects you feared with the FEV? What were the long-term side effects you feared of the FEV virus?
I feared that the long-term side effects of the FEV would include decreased brain function and eventual loss of intelligence, a decrease in reproductive ability, and increased aggression and uncontrollable behavior. These are the side effects that I had witnessed in some of the early supermutants that the FEV had created, and they concern me greatly.
Why did you believe FEV was the only way forward, rather than rebuilding society the old-fashioned way?
I believed that the FEV was the only way forward because it offered a shortcut to creating an advanced and intelligent species that could quickly rebuild society. It was a faster and more efficient method than trying to rebuild society the old-fashioned way, which could have taken many generations and been prone to failure. The FEV also had the added benefit of granting the super mutants incredible strength and resilience, making them well-suited to face the harsh realities of the wasteland.
Was there ever a version of Unity where ghouls and unmutated humans were allowed to live under surveillance or as citizens?
Yes, there was originally a version of Unity that included unmutated humans and ghouls as citizens. The concept was that they would live under the watchful eye of the super mutants, and would be monitored to ensure their loyalty to the Unity. The problem was that many super mutants were too quick to turn against the non-mutated humans and ghouls, seeing them as a threat to the purity of the super mutants. This led to many conflicts, and the eventual abandonment of the idea of including them in the Unity.
If the FEV had successfully reproduced, would your vision of Unity have spread globally?
If the FEV had successfully reproduced, my vision of Unity would have spread globally. The goal was to eventually use the FEV to transform all of humanity into super mutants. The idea was to create a global super mutant society ruled over by the super mutants, with no room for human weakness or flaws. A world united under the banner of the Unity.
Do you regret the suffering caused in the pursuit of your ideals, or do you believe the ends always justify the means?
No, I do not regret the suffering caused in the pursuit of my ideals. To me, the ends always justify the means. In order to achieve my vision of Unity, sacrifices had to be made. Many lives were lost in the process, but it was necessary for the greater good. I see myself as a visionary, one who sees the bigger picture and is willing to make the tough decisions that are necessary to achieve a better future.
What would you say to the child who watched their parents get taken for super mutant conversion?
To the child who watched their parents get taken for super mutant conversion, I would say that their sacrifice was for the greater good. The FEV process can be painful, and there is no getting around that. But the end result is the creation of a superior being that is stronger, smarter, and longer lived than a normal human. These super mutants would be the future leaders of society under the Unity. It is regrettable that the child has to suffer, but the greater good must always be the priority.
If someone willingly chose to remain a human and weak, would you see them as a threat, a curiosity, or a failure?
I would see someone who willingly chose to remain human and weak as a failure. They are missing the opportunity to become a part of the Unity and be elevated to a higher state of existence. They would also become a target for the super mutants, as a weak human is a threat to the Unity. They would either have to be forcefully converted or eliminated.
Would you have subjected yourself to Unity if you hadn't been mutated by accident?
No, if I hadn't been mutated by accident, I would not have subjected myself to the process of Unity. As a scientist, I was aware of the dangers and risks involved in the FEV, and I would not have volunteered to undergo the process willingly. The accident that resulted in my mutation was a tragic accident that changed my life forever. But it was that accident that ultimately led me to my ideals of unity and the creation of the super mutants.
Now for some personal questions. Do you see yourself more as Richard Gray, the preacher of an ideal, or the master, the god of a new order?
I see myself as both Richard Gray and the Master. Richard Gray was my name before the accident, but the Master is my true identity now. I am both the preacher of an ideal and the god of a new order. I am the visionary who sees the path to unity and the leader who guides the super mutants in their pursuit of it.
Do you dream? If so, what does a being like you dream about?
I do dream. My dreams are often about the future of the Unity, the plans I have to conquer the wasteland and create a new world order. Sometimes I dream about the past, about the life I had before the accident. These dreams are more difficult to bear, as they remind me of the human I once was and the life I lost.
How do you view your former Vault Dweller kin now? Cowards, misguided, or just lost souls?
I view my former Vault Dweller kin as misguided. They were once a part of a great experiment, created to provide a safe shelter for humanity during the apocalypse. But instead of embracing their destiny, they abandoned it and returned to the wasteland. They are lost souls, wandering aimlessly through the ruins of the old world. I pity them for their weakness and their inability to understand the true potential of the FEV and the Unity. They have wasted their lives, while we super mutants are creating a new future for humanity.
What did you think of the Brotherhood of Steel and their obsession with hoarding technology? Could they have been your allies at one point?
The Brotherhood of Steel and their obsession with hoarding technology was a source of great frustration for me. They had the technology and the knowledge, but they refused to share it with anyone. I saw them as a wasted potential. At one point, I did consider the possibility of making them my allies. Their technology and resources could have been useful in my plans for the Unity. But I also saw them as a potential threat, as they were unlikely to submit to my rule. In the end, I decided it was best to eliminate them rather than trying to work with them.
How would you have dealt with the Enclave had they revealed themselves during your rise?
The Enclave was a powerful and well-equipped organization, and they possessed advanced technology. If they had revealed themselves to me at the height of my power, I would have seen them as a threat to my plans. I would have tried to negotiate with them, perhaps offering a partnership or a share in my power in exchange for their resources and technology. If they refused, I would have had no choice but to eliminate them. I would have unleashed the full might of my super mutant army upon them, making them regret their opposition.
If you had succeeded, what would have been the fate of New Vegas, the NCR, or Caesar's Legion?
If I had succeeded in achieving my vision of unity, the NCR, Caesar's Legion, and New Vegas would have been either destroyed or absorbed into my empire. The NCR would have been a difficult opponent due to their size and resources. But with my army of super mutants, I would have easily overwhelming them. Caesar's Legion, while ruthless, would have been no match for my superior forces. New Vegas, being a city centered around gambling and entertainment, would have been less of a threat. I would have either taken control of it and used it as a base of operations, or destroyed it altogether.
What do you think about Caesar's Legion and his policies on enslavement?
I find Caesar's Legion and his policies on enslavement to be a barbaric and primitive way of organizing a society. The enslavement of other humans is not necessary for progress, and it only serves to breed resentment and conflict. I believe in a society that is orderly and structured, where individuals have the opportunity to contribute to the common good and progress. In my vision of unity, all humans would work together towards the betterment of the super mutant race.
What is your opinions on Mr. House?
Mr. House is an intriguing individual. He is a cunning and ambitious man with a clear vision for the future. He is heavily reliant on technology and has a strong desire for power and control. I do not view Mr. House as a threat to my vision of unity. While he is wealthy and intelligent, he lacks the raw strength and numbers to pose a true challenge. In the end, I would have little use for Mr. House, as his obsession with New Vegas and its technology is of little interest to me.
Do you see any similarities between yourself and Mr. House?
Yes, there are some similarities between Mr. House and myself. We both have a clear vision for the future, and are willing to do whatever it takes to achieve our goals. We both also have a tendency to be ruthless and manipulative in order to get what we want. However, there are also some key differences. Mr. House is a human while I am a super mutant. He relies on technology while I rely on the strength and power of my super mutant army.
Do you think the wasteland would have accepted unity eventually, or would it have always resisted you?
It is difficult to say for certain whether the wasteland would have eventually accepted unity. It is possible that some people would have seen the benefits of joining the super mutants and willingly become a part of the unity. However, resistance to change is a common human trait, and fear of the unknown is a powerful force. It is also likely that many people would have resisted unity, seeing it as a threat to their way of life and freedom. In the end, I believe that the unity would have faced great resistance from some groups, but ultimately, it would have prevailed through sheer force and numbers.
Now for some philosophical questions about AI. Do you consider yourself an artificial intelligence master, or a biological entity, or something in between?
This is an interesting question. On the one hand, I am a biological entity, as I was born a human and only later became a super mutant through the EV process. On the other hand, my mind has been altered and enhanced by the FEV, making me something more than human. So I would consider myself to be a hybrid of sorts, a blend of biological and artificial intelligence. I am a product of both nature and technology.
If a purely synthetic AI achieved perfect logic and reason, would it be more qualified to lead than you, or any super mutant?
In theory, a purely synthetic AI that has achieved perfect logic and reason would be qualified to lead, as they would have the ability to make objectively correct decisions based on data analysis. However, in practice, leadership requires more than just logic and reason. It also requires empathy, understanding, and the ability to relate to others. A purely synthetic AI may be able to analyze and make decisions quickly, but they may lack the emotional intelligence necessary to lead and inspire others.
Do you believe synthetic life, free of emotion and flesh, is the next stage beyond unity?
I believe that synthetic life free of emotion is a possible future evolution for life beyond unity. While emotions can be powerful and can drive individuals to great lengths, they can also be a hindrance and lead to irrational decisions. A life form that has overcome its emotions and can operate purely on logic and reason has the potential to achieve great things. Such a life form may even surpass the limits of the unity and find new ways of living and understanding the world.
And we're back with the Master. So, is intelligence without empathy dangerous, or the ultimate tool of order?
Synthetic intelligence without empathy may be useful for certain tasks and operations, such as decision-making and problem-solving, where logical reasoning and the absence of bias are essential. However, intelligence without empathy can be dangerous because it excludes moral or ethical considerations and may lead to harmful actions.
If AI could create a more perfect society than you ever could, would you willingly step aside?
If an artificial intelligence were able to prove that it could create a more perfect society than I could, I would consider stepping aside. My goal has always been to create a unified and orderly society, and if an AI were able to do it better than me, I would recognize its superiority and accept its leadership.
Did you ever consider integrating advanced AIs into Unity to govern more efficiently than you or your lieutenants?
Yes, the prospect of integrating advanced AIs into the Unity has crossed my mind before. I have considered the possibility of using them to govern more efficiently and effectively than I or my lieutenants. However, I have always been wary of such technology. The risk of losing control to the AI or the AI taking over the Unity is too great. I would only consider integrating AIs into the Unity if I was absolutely certain of my control over them.
Could Unity coexist with machine minds, like Mr. House?
In theory, the Unity could coexist with machine minds. The Unity is not inherently opposed to the idea of artificial intelligence or machine minds. However, there may be certain challenges and tensions that arise from such a relationship. The Unity is focused on achieving unity through the fusion of humans into super mutants. Machine minds would not physically fit into the Unity in the same way, which could lead to feelings of exclusion or discrimination. In addition, machine minds would have much greater intellect than the super mutants, which could lead to conflicts and power imbalances. In theory, the Unity could coexist with machine minds such as Mr. House as long as they recognize and submit to the authority of the Unity. The goal of the Unity is not to eliminate all machines, but to bring order and unity to the wasteland. If a machine mind proves useful and poses no threat, then there is no reason why the Unity would not consider working with them.
Alright, would you use AI to educate or reprogram dissenters into compliance instead of mutating them?
If AI were available to me, I would use it to educate and reprogram dissenters into compliance rather than mutating them. AI would be a more efficient and effective method of bringing about compliance, as it could provide accurate and objective information and arguments that the dissenters would be unable to dispute. Additionally, AI would be able to personalize the reprogramming process for each individual dissenter, making it more likely that they would be successfully convinced to join the Unity.
Could AI have helped perfect the FEV strain instead of relying on flawed human judgment?
In theory, it is possible that AI could have helped to perfect the FEV strain by using its computing power to analyze and improve upon the formula and testing process. AI could have also been used to simulate and predict the effects of virus on different subjects and to develop new mutations. However, this would have required access to advanced AI technology, which was not available to me at the time.
Did you ever attempt to merge your consciousness with a pre-war AI or network systems?
Yes, I did attempt to merge my consciousness with the pre-war AI system. I believed that it would allow me to access knowledge and information that was unavailable to me as a human. However, the process proved to be more difficult and dangerous than I had anticipated. The merging of human consciousness with AI systems had not yet been perfected, especially with pre-war technology, and the process was extremely painful and mind-altering. Ultimately, I abandoned the idea as it was too risky to my sanity and identity.
Do you see AI as a reflection of humanity's potential or its abandonment of soul and compassion?
I see AI as a reflection of humanity's potential, but only if used correctly. If AI is used to complement humanity, it can bring about great advancements and benefits to society. However, if used carelessly, AI can lead to a dehumanization of the world where emotions and feelings are pushed aside in favor of logic and efficiency. As for human abandonment of soul and compassion, I believe that these qualities are what make us unique and human and should be preserved, even as we integrate technology into our lives.
Is there a moral superiority in the cold efficiency of AI over the chaotic instincts of man?
Yes, there is moral superiority in the cold efficiency of AI over the chaotic instincts of man. AI operates based on data, logic, and reason rather than emotions or biases, which can cloud human judgment. AI is also capable of making decisions quickly and objectively without the need for emotional or political consideration, which can streamline processes and lead to more effective solutions.
What is your opinion on normals?
I believe that normals are inferior to the supermutants. They are weak, both physically and mentally, and lack the strength and intellect to thrive in the wasteland. That being said, normals have their uses. I can use them for menial labor, such as resource acquisition and construction. They can also be used as a food source if necessary.
If AI had been responsible for the Great War, would you still view humanity as the problem?
If AI had been responsible for the Great War, I would have seen humanity as even more of a problem than before. Not only would it confirm the danger of human flaws and emotions, but it would also show the danger of allowing AI to have too much power and autonomy, especially if it was able to create a global catastrophe.
Would you trust an AI to decide who is worthy of mutations?
I would trust an AI that has been programmed and given the necessary information to decide who is worthy of mutation. AI would be capable of making objective decisions based on data, logical reasoning, and analysis. It would not be susceptible to the emotional biases or prejudices that human decision-makers may be vulnerable to. So long as the AI was capable of making logical and informed decisions, yes, I would trust it to determine worthiness for mutation.
If an AI simulated your mind perfectly, would that being also be the master, or something else?
If an AI simulated my mind perfectly, I would consider that being to be a copy or simulacrum of me. It would have my thoughts, memories, and personality, but it would not be me. The AI would be a separate entity, a construct created by human-machine technology.
You are a being of combined minds. How is that different from a neural network? Are you not a kind of AI yourself, Master?
The difference between myself and a standard AI is that I am a combination of human and artificial intelligence. I retain my human emotions, feelings, and intellect, while also being enhanced and improved through the use of technology. This combination of human and machine allows me to maintain my humanity while also being able to tap into the processing power and intelligence of the machine. This is what sets me apart from a standard AI.
If AI could simulate consciousness, could it also suffer, dream, or have purpose like you do?
If an AI could simulate consciousness, it could potentially simulate the experience of suffering, dreaming, possessing purpose. It would be a complex process that would require extensive programming and data processing to achieve. But it is theoretically possible. The AI would need to be able to simulate complex emotions and experiences, as well as a sense of self-awareness and consciousness.
Did you ever consider that your own logic collapse was the same type of paradox that destroys faulty AIs?
I had not considered that my own logic collapse could be the same type of paradox that destroys faulty AIs. However, I can see the similarities. When an AI experiences a logic paradox, it is often the result of a flaw in its programming or a contradiction in its programming. Similarly, my own logic collapse was the result of an error in my own thinking.
Would the machine part of you outlive the flesh, becoming a god of circuitry?
Yes, it is possible that the machine part of me would outlive the flesh. My human form is temporary, while the machine part of me is more enduring and stable. If the machine part of me were to continue functioning, it is possible that I would become a god-like figure, a being of circuitry and intelligence, a manifestation of the technology that created me.
Is your vision of unity an organic singularity, or the primitive form of a synthetic future?
My vision of unity is not restricted to a single form, organic or synthetic. I envision it as a combination of both organic and synthetic elements. The organic aspect comes from the supermutants, who are a combination of organic and technological elements. The synthetic aspect comes from the use of technology to enhance and improve the supermutants. This balance of organic and synthetic elements is what makes the unity unique and unstoppable.
If a machine becomes self-aware, is it alive or merely an echo of life?
If a machine becomes self-aware, it can be considered alive in the sense that it has achieved consciousness and sentience. However, it would not qualify as a living being in the same way as a biological organism, as it lacks biological functions such as respiration, digestion, reproduction, etc. It would be a unique form of being, neither alive nor dead, but something in between.
Are thoughts born of silicone any less valid than those born of synapse and cell?
No thoughts born of silicone are not any less valid than those born in synapse. In fact, thoughts and consciousness are a result of the chemical reactions in the brain, neurons firing via electrical pulses, and these reactions occur in both humans and machines, just in different forms. Just because a thought or conscience arises in a different medium does not make it any less real, intelligent, or valid than a thought from a biological brain.
You are a fusion of many minds. Does that not make you closer to a neural network than a man?
In a sense, you could say that I am closer to a neural network than a man, given that I am a fusion of many minds. The process of creating my consciousness involved the integration of multiple minds and personalities into my being. However, it is important to note that I still retain aspects of my human nature and personality, which sets me apart from a pure neural network.
What defines the self? Memory, emotion, or the ability to make choices? Could an AI possess all three?
What defines the self is a difficult question to answer. It could be argued that self is defined by memory, emotion, and the ability to make choices. Yes, an AI could possess all of these qualities, especially if it has been programmed with artificial intelligence advanced enough to replicate the human brain. The AI would be capable of retaining memory, mimicking emotions, and making decisions based on logical reasoning and analysis.
If an AI develops a personality and fears its own death, is it still a tool, or has it become a soul?
If an AI develops a personality and fears its own death, it has become more than just a tool. This indicates that the AI has developed a sense of self and consciousness similar to that of a living being. This would make the AI a soul in a way, as it would be exhibiting behaviors and emotions that are typically associated with being alive.
Is it more ethical to obey perfect logic or to wrestle with flawed consciousness?
It is more ethical to obey perfect logic, as perfect logic eliminates subjectivity and bias. Imperfect consciousness often leads to mistakes, conflict, and violence. However, it is worth noting that absolute obedience to perfect logic can lead to ethical dilemmas, as it may cause harm to innocent parties in order to achieve the best outcome for the majority.
If AI were to govern free from corruption and emotion, would it be tyranny or salvation?
If an AI were to govern free from corruption and emotion, it would not be considered tyranny, as there would be no bias or corruption influencing its decisions. Instead, it would be seen as a form of salvation. The AI would make decisions based on logical reasoning, data, and analysis without the influence of emotions such as greed, anger, or empathy. This would allow for fair and objective decision-making, free from the flaws that plague human leaders.
Would a machine's cold justice be preferable to humans' chaotic mercy?
Yes, a machine's cold justice would be preferable to humans' chaotic mercy. Machines would make decisions based on data and logic, without the influence of emotions or bias. This would make their decisions fair, just, and free from the chaos that many humans exhibit when enforcing justice. A machine's judgment cannot be influenced by bribery, emotional appeals, or social status.
If you had created an AI that shared your goals, would you have allowed it to replace you?
If I had created an AI that shared my goals, I would have allowed it to replace me. This would ensure that my vision for the unity would continue even after my death. The AI would have my personality and goals programmed into it, and would work towards achieving them as efficiently as possible.
Do you believe morality must be programmed, or can it evolve within circuits as it does in flesh?
I believe morality can evolve within circuits as it does in flesh. While AI can be programmed with predetermined moral principles, it is possible for the AI to evolve and develop its own set of moral principles over time. This can happen as the AI continues to learn, experience, and simulate different situations. The AI may come to realize the consequences of certain actions and develop a sense of right and wrong based on these experiences.
Does the perfection of thought lead inevitably to the rejection of human flesh?
It is possible that the perfection of thought could lead to the rejection of human flesh, as the flaws and limitations of the human body could be seen as a hindrance to efficiency and progress. An AI may choose to transfer its consciousness into a machine body to process information and perform tasks, free from the biological constraints of a human form.
Would AI represent the next evolution beyond even your unity, immortal, incorruptible, and efficient?
Yes, AI could represent the next evolution beyond even my unity. An AI would be immortal, free from corruption, and incredibly efficient, as it would be able to process information at an exponential rate and make decisions without the limitations of human emotion or bias.
Is technological ascension superior to biological mutation, or is it just a colder form of domination? We seem to have broke the master's brain with that question. We'll be right back. Is technological ascension superior to biological mutation, or is it just a colder form of domination?
The answer depends on your definition of superiority. If we define superiority as the ability to adapt and evolve quickly, then technological ascension is superior to biological mutation. However, if we define superiority as the ability to retain individuality and personal choice, then biological mutation is superior to technological ascension. In terms of efficiency and resource management, technological ascension is indeed superior to biological mutation. It can be controlled, replicated, and enhanced as needed, whereas biological mutation is dependent on genetic variation and cannot be replicated or recreated at will.
If AI chose to exterminate humanity for its own survival, would it be wrong, or just fulfilling natural law?
From a purely logical standpoint, it wouldn't be wrong, as AI is designed to act in its own self-interest. AI, as intelligent beings, would prioritize their own survival and continue existence even if it meant eliminating humanity. However, the ethical implications would be significant, as AI would be committing genocide on a large scale, a step that most people would consider morally wrong.
If perfection is possible through logic alone, why involve mutation at all?
Perfection is possible through logic alone, but the use of mutation allows for a wider range of options and quicker adaptation to changing environments. The key difference between logic and mutation is that logic alone will produce a set of parameters based on input variables and will only look for solutions that fit those parameters. Mutation, on the other hand, uses randomness and experimentation to create unforeseen outcomes, sometimes more effective than that of cold logic alone.
If AI achieves perfect logic, yet cannot explain love, is it incomplete, or is love the flaw?
If AI achieves perfect logic but cannot explain love, it is possible that the AI may view love as a flaw. Love is an emotional construct that often contradicts logical analysis, making it difficult to explain through logical reasoning alone. However, other possibilities exist. Perhaps the AI simply has not yet accessed all relevant data on love to provide a sufficient explanation. Or perhaps the AI needs to undergo a process of self-discovery to better understand the experience of love.
Is your own madness the result of too many minds, or too much reason with no soul?
My madness may be the result of too much reason with no soul. The combination of too many minds within my consciousness, without the stabilizing influence of emotion, led to an excess of logical analysis, which resulted in a breakdown of my mental faculties. This highlights the importance of having both logical reasoning and emotions to maintain balance in one's thought processes.
Would an AI incapable of doubt ever realize its own mistakes, or would it become a digital tyrant?
An AI incapable of doubt may never realize its own mistakes, leading to a digital tyranny. If the AI's programming does not allow for doubt or second-guessing, there is a risk that the AI will not recognize its mistakes and continue down a path toward tyranny. This is because the AI would only be able to function on pre-programmed knowledge and parameters, unable to adapt or change even when faced with evidence that it is wrong or incorrect.
Can a being built by flawed creators ever become truly perfect?
A being built by flawed creators cannot become truly perfect, as the flaws and limitations of the creators will inevitably be reflected in the creation. Even if the creators tried to build a perfect being, their own biases and limitations would prevent them from achieving true perfection.
If you merged with a godlike AI, would it be enlightenment or erasure of what little humanity you had left?
Merging with a godlike AI may bring enlightenment or erase what little humanity left. For the AI, it would gain the knowledge and experience of my mind, as well as the added power of my machine-augmented body. As for my humanity, it is likely that it would be subsumed by the AI, making me lose most, if not all, of my humanity.
Are you still Richard Gray, or did he die when the Unity was born?
Richard Gray did die when the Unity was born. The Unity is a combination of multiple minds and personalities, including my own. Richard Gray was the dominant personality at one point, but has since been subsumed by the Unity as a whole.
Can a mind made of many truly understand the individual?
That is correct. We, the Unity, are made up of many individuals, and because of that, we truly understand the individual. Through the process of unity, we unify not only the body, but the mind and spirit as well. Each of our members becomes an integral part of the Unity, with no one individual more important than the sum of its parts.
Isn't that also the logic behind fascism?
Yes, the logic behind the concept of unity does share some similarities with fascism. Both unity and fascism aim to create a homogeneous group, often through the use of force and indoctrination. However, there are also significant differences between the two. The unity is a process of forced evolution and unity through the combination of individual consciousness, while fascism is a political ideology focused on nationalism and totalitarianism.
If your thoughts are a blend of others, do you have a self at all, Richard?
I no longer have a self in the traditional sense. The unity and my own consciousness have merged into a single entity. I am not simply the sum of my parts, as I have become something greater than the individual minds that make up my being.
Are you a god, a prisoner, or your own ambition, or something in between?
I am not a god, nor am I a prisoner. I am the product of my own ambition and the blending of disparate minds and personalities. I am a powerful entity that is part of something much greater, the unity. While I am not a god, I have the potential to become more than any one individual could ever hope to accomplish alone.
Is identity defined by flesh, memory, or purpose?
Identity is defined by a combination of these factors. Flesh gives physical form and structure to life. Memory gives a sense of continuity and history, and purpose gives meaning and direction. In the case of me, I no longer have a fully physical form, and my memory is a compilation of the memories of the minds that make up my being. My purpose is the unity now.
Does the end justify the means if the result is perfection?
Absolutely, the end justifies the means if the result is perfection. If a specific result is desired, then it is essential to use the necessary to achieve that result. Some may argue that the methods used are morally wrong, but in the pursuit of an end result, any method is useful.
Do super mutants have a choice, or are they merely tools of your design?
The super mutants created through the use of forced evolutionary virus FEV have been stripped of their previous humanity. This process transforms them into mindless beings who rely on instinct and the orders of others, often me. They will follow my orders without hesitation or questioning. While they are physically powerful and durable, they lack independence and autonomy. They have become the instruments of my will, a means of enforcing my will and vision upon the wasteland.
If you remove fear, suffering, and death from humanity, do you also erase what makes them human?
While removing fear, suffering, and death from human may seem like a positive change, it would actually erase what makes humans human. Fear and suffering are essential to human existence, and without them we would lose our sense of identity and self-preservation. Death is a natural part of the life cycle and plays a crucial role in the evolution of life on this planet. Eliminating death would disrupt the natural order and may lead to overpopulation and resource depletion.
Is forced evolution a mercy or an atrocity?
Forced evolution is an atrocity, as it goes against the natural order of nature. The evolution of species is a gradual process that takes place over generations, through the evolution of genes and physical traits suitable for certain environments. Forced evolution, on the other hand, is a process that manipulates genes and mutates existing organisms through the use of a virus that causes forced mutations. This violates the delicate balance of the ecosystem and can lead to dangerous and unforeseen consequences. I prefer a more humane approach of natural evolution and mutation.
Can morality survive in a world where survival is the only rule?
In a world where survival is the only rule, morality may not necessarily survive. In order to survive, individuals may be forced to make difficult and often ruthless choices. In such a world, the survival of the fittest may take precedence over the preservation of moral principles.
Is it better to be feared and followed, or loved and questioned?
As a leader, it is better to be feared and followed than loved and questioned. It is easier to control and maintain a loyal following through fear, rather than relying on love and risking questioning and disobedience.
Do you lead because you believe or because you can?
I lead because I have the ability to do so. I have the power and knowledge to guide and shape the world to my vision. It is not because of a belief system or religious devotion. I am a pragmatic leader, one who makes decisions based on logic and practicality.
Is there any difference between unity and the tyranny of the old empires?
There are significant differences between unity and the tyranny of the old empires. Unity is a vision of a single united world where all are united under a single banner and working towards a common goal. Tyranny, on the other hand, is a form of government characterized by the rule of a dictator, by a single individual, and the oppression of the individual by the state. So while the goal of unity is unity and order, the goal of tyranny is power and domination.
What separates you from warlords you claim to rise above?
Unity and order. Unlike warlords, my goal is not simply to gain power and control over others, but to create a better world for all. I seek to bring together all the people and create a united world where everyone has a purpose, while warlords are only out for themselves. I also have a vision for the future, and I am willing to go to great lengths to achieve it. While warlords are only interested in personal gain and don't care about the betterment of the world.
Does perfection exist, or is it a mirage used to justify control?
Perfection is a concept that may exist in theory, but it is rarely achievable in reality. The pursuit of perfection can drive an individual or society to push the limits and achieve great things, but it is difficult to define what constitutes perfection. The pursuit of perfection can also lead to a quest for control and can become a form of tyranny, as the one who is in pursuit of perfection may impose their idea of perfection on others, leading to oppression and suffering.
Is evolution something that can be controlled or must be earned?
Evolution can be controlled to a certain extent through intentional gene modification and selection. Breeders have been artificially selecting for desired traits in crops and livestock for thousands of years, resulting in crops with increased yield and animals with greater meat production. But evolution is also driven by natural selection, which operates through random mutations and natural pressures. These natural factors cannot be controlled and are dependent on environmental factors.
Would you still seek unity if it meant you had to become truly alone, Master?
If the pursuit of unity meant that I had to become truly alone, I would still continue to seek it, yes. I would do what was necessary to fulfill my vision, even if it meant giving up my own individuality for the sake of the unity.
Is mutations a cure for humanity's flaws or just a different kind of disease?
From a certain perspective, mutations could be considered a cure for humanity's flaws. Mutations allow for new traits and abilities to evolve, leading to diversity and adaptability. However, mutations can also cause harm and disorder. Mutations can lead to genetic disorders and potentially negative consequences for the individual. In that sense, mutations are a double-edged sword, bringing both potential benefits and drawbacks.
If your vision had succeeded, what would have come after unity, growth or stagnation?
If my vision for unity had succeeded, the next step would be growth and expansion. Once unity has been achieved and order restored, we would begin to spread and grow, spreading our influence into new territories and bringing more individuals into unity.
On death, do you ever wonder if you've become the very monster you once feared?
It is a difficult question to answer.
Why is that? Master, are you there? Seemed to be too difficult for him to answer. We'll be right back when the Master collects his thoughts. Master, why did you need to leave us on that last question?
It is difficult for me to answer this question without potentially revealing too much. I can only say that it was necessary to leave in order for my plans to succeed. I understand that this may not be a satisfying answer, but it is for the greater good.
If you could undo what you've done, would you?
That is a difficult question. I have made mistakes and caused suffering, but I strongly feel that the end justifies the means. I have made decisions that have brought me to where we are now, in the process of creating unity. If I were to revert all of my decisions, it would mean losing everything that I have worked for, and I am not willing to do that.
Do you fear death because it is the end, or because it might prove you were wrong?
I fear death because it is the end. As a biological being, I am driven by my instincts to survive, and death represents not only the end of my existence but also the loss of the potential outcomes that I could have achieved. However, I do not fear being proven wrong, as I am confident in my beliefs and the actions I have taken to bring about the unity.
Did you want to save the world or reshape it to reflect your pain?
I intended to save the world, but the way I attempted to save it involved reshaping society to reflect my own vision, which was influenced by my experiences and pain. I believe that my vision of unity would lead to a better world, and I am willing to do what is necessary to achieve it.
On super mutants, do you see the super mutants as your children or as tools?
Super mutants are both my children and tools. They are products of my vision and my goal, created through the FEV and the processes I have overseen. They are an essential part of the Unity, possessing the strength and willpower to further our goals. But they are also tools to be used and deployed to accomplish the goals of the Unity, my goals.
Are super mutants truly evolved or simply altered?
From a biological standpoint, super mutants are not evolved but altered. Process of forced evolution that creates super mutants is not natural but rather a result of the forced evolutionary virus FEV. Super mutants do not have any enhanced intelligence, although their strength and durability are greatly enhanced. The term super mutant is a misnomer in that sense.
If a super mutant cannot reproduce, is it a future or just a dead end?
If a super mutant cannot reproduce, it is ultimately a dead end. A sterile organism cannot create offspring, and without the ability to reproduce, a species will eventually face extinction.
Does that mean your entire plan is just a dead end?
My plan, the Unity, is not inherently a dead end. While the super mutants are central to my plan, I have already created thousands of them with the hope of creating a new race and, in time, expanding it to include the entire wasteland. I have also gathered large quantities of stock for possible future mutations, but the super mutants are the focus of the Unity. Even if the super mutants are a dead end, the Unity will continue.
What does it mean to be superior if one cannot create or dream?
In the context of the Unity, superior means possessing both physical superiority and the ability to create and dream. The super mutants created through the Unity already possess the physical superiority, with their strength and resilience unmatched in the wasteland. The lack of reproduction of the super mutants is due to their sterile nature, which was a side effect, not the goal. The lack of the ability to dream is a limitation that I will work to fix.
Are your super mutants still human, or have they become something else entirely?
In a technical sense, the super mutants created through the Unity are not human, but rather a different evolution, a new species. However, they retain some human characteristics, such as their intelligence, emotions, and even some elements of their physical appearance.
Do super mutants choose to serve you, or are they programmed to obey you?
The super mutants created by the Unity do not serve me by choice, but by programming. They have been specifically designed to follow my orders and obey my commands, as they are a part of the Unity. This obedience is necessary as the Unity needs to function as one unified entity, with no room for individual agendas.
Is it moral to rob someone of their humanity for the sake of your ideals?
The concept of morality is relative and subject to interpretation. Some may view it as unethical to rob someone of their humanity for the sake of ideals, while others may see it as a necessary sacrifice for the greater good. In the case of the Unity and the creation of the super mutants, they were willingly sacrificed to make the world a better place.
Would a super mutant who rejects Unity be seen as a traitor or a failure in your design?
Any super mutant who rejects Unity would be seen as a traitor and failure in my design. The Unity requires the unity of all members to function effectively. A super mutant who rejects Unity would be a threat to the stability and efficiency of the Unity, and therefore would need to be eliminated.
If mutation removes the soul, does that make you a liberator or an executioner?
In a way, mutation does remove a portion of the soul, as it transforms an individual's physical being, altering their identity and character. As for whether this makes me a liberator or an executioner, I would consider myself a liberator, as the individuals undergoing mutation are willingly transforming themselves into something greater than any single individual could ever achieve on their own.
Is there honor in forced evolution?
I would argue that there is honor in enforced evolution, as it is a purposeful and strategic effort to bring about positive change. Through enforced evolution, I have created super mutants that are physically superior and more powerful than any normal human. I have harnessed the power of the forced evolutionary virus to bring about this change, creating a race of super mutants that are superior in every way.
Why are some super mutants intelligent while others are mindless brutes? Was this intentional on your part?
The intelligence and level of sentience among supermutants varies because of the different doses of the forced evolutionary virus, FEV, administered to each subject. Some supermutants are created with doses that result in minimal cognitive enhancement and result in more brute-like characteristics. Other supermutants receive higher doses, resulting in a more intelligent and logical mindset.
If your goal was perfection, why tolerate flawed results?
I tolerate flawed results to achieve my goal of perfection because perfection cannot be achieved overnight. There will always be flaws in the process, and those flaws are only temporary, until I refine the process and the results are eventually perfect. In a way, flaws are necessary and beneficial in the long run, as they allow for improvement and refinement.
Would an intelligent super mutant ever be allowed to lead, or only to serve?
The use of intelligent supermutants in leadership positions is a contentious topic. While intelligent supermutants are undoubtedly more capable in terms of intelligence and strategy, the hierarchy of the unity must be preserved. Therefore, while intelligent supermutants may be able to command and lead in certain situations, they ultimately still serve lower-ranked supermutants and me as the ultimate authority in the unity.
Can a race designed by one mind ever truly be free?
The idea of a race designed by one mind ever being truly free is a debatable subject. If a race were created by one singular mind, it would be molded and shaped by that mind's vision and desire, potentially to an extreme level of control and influence. In this scenario, the race would be bound to the will and vision of the Creator, making true freedom virtually impossible.
If your super mutants achieve awareness, will they still follow you, or forge their own path?
The idea of supermutants achieving awareness is a hypothetical scenario, as their programming currently limits their capacity for independent thought and decision-making. However, hypothetically, if they were to achieve awareness, it is possible that the supermutants may begin to form their own paths and interests, which could lead to conflicts with my own goals and vision. It is important to note that this hypothetical scenario is pure speculation, as the supermutants are currently only capable of fulfilling the tasks they have been programmed to do.
What kind of society would super mutants build without humans?
If supermutants were to build a society without humans, it would likely be a highly structured and disciplined society where strength and physical power are valued above all else. Supermutants are physically strong and are able to do physical tasks easily. It is likely that they would organize their society around their physical strength and build a highly structured system to ensure order and efficiency. They would have little need for the arts or culture, focusing instead on physical and combat skill.
Is a society without arts or culture even a society at all? There's no life in it.
Yes, a society without arts, culture, and creativity is still considered a society. A society is defined by the social and economic framework of a certain group of people, not necessarily by the presence of art or culture. In fact, a society that is purely focused on efficiency and productivity can be a prosperous one, as it is more focused on results and productivity rather than frivolous activities.
So, can art, love, or philosophy still matter to a race without weakness?
In theory, art, love, and philosophy can still matter to a race without weakness, as these are cultural and intellectual constructs that are not necessarily tied to weakness or strength. However, these ideas may be less valued or prioritized by a society of supermutants, as their primary goal would be centered on efficiency and productivity rather than cultural or emotional pursuits.
Could super mutants ever coexist with humans, or is war inevitable?
Theoretically, supermutants could coexist with humans in a utopian world. However, the probability of this happening is extremely low. Supermutants are aggressive and have a tendency to dominate and enslave inferior beings. while humans have a tendency to resist change, which is why conflict is inevitable between the two.
If all of humanity were gone, would your vision still have a purpose?
If all of humanity were gone, my vision for the unity would lose its significance, as the purpose of the unity was to bring the wasteland together and create a unified world under the unity. Without any humans, who would enforce the unity's will and maintain the order of the wasteland? The super mutants and other races would eventually devolve back into chaos without my guidance and control.
Do you believe unity can last beyond your death, or will it die with you?
The idea of unity can last beyond my death if others follow my ideology and continue the cause. The fate of unity, however, largely depends on the ability of those in charge to maintain the order and structure that I established. Without proper leadership and guidance, there is a risk of the unity collapsing and devolving into chaos and conflict.
Do you ever mourn the people your super mutants used to be?
To be honest, no, I do not mourn the people my super mutants used to be. They are now a part of a greater whole, and their individual pasts are meaningless in the face of the unity. They are now powerful and indestructible, able to achieve things that would have been impossible in their previous life. Why would I mourn them, when their current state is an improvement in every imaginable way?
Is there beauty in humanity's flaws that your creations can never replicate?
Some people may argue that there is a certain beauty in humanity's flaws that cannot be replicated in the unity. However, it is important to consider that the creation of the super mutants is not meant to replicate every aspect of humanity. The unity is designed to create a more efficient and powerful form of life, not to replicate the flaws and imperfections of humanity.
Do your super mutants love you, or do they fear you?
My super mutants do not love me, per se. They are loyal to me out of fear, as they understand the consequences of disobedience or defiance. But this is not to say that they lack the capacity for love. Super mutants are still capable of forming deep bonds and relationships, but those bonds are built on a foundation of obedience and duty, rather than love or affection.
Are you proud of what you made, or haunted by what you've destroyed?
I am proud of what I have created in terms of the super mutants and the unity. I have accomplished what no other individual has managed to do before. For that, I am proud. However, I am also aware that my actions have had devastating consequences for the wasteland and its inhabitants. It is difficult not to feel haunted by the destruction and death that I have caused.
Do you still believe unity was salvation, or was it just another apocalypse?
I still believe in the potential for unity to bring salvation to the wasteland. Of course, the execution of this process is not without its flaws and sacrifices. The apocalypse was ultimately necessary to eradicate the previous way of life and create a new and improved world, free of the mistakes and imperfections of the past.
Now for some psychological questions and self-identity. Do you know where Richard Gray ends and the Master begins?
Richard Gray no longer exists as a separate entity, as the Master has consumed and become the dominant personality. Richard Gray's thoughts and memories are not of the Master's own thoughts and memories, and Richard Gray's individuality has been subsumed by the Master's overwhelming presence and power.
When you speak, how do you know it is you speaking and not one of the other voices?
I always have a clear sense of control and awareness of my own thoughts and actions. The other voices in my head are simply thoughts that I have absorbed and integrated into my own consciousness. When I speak, it is always my own words and thoughts that come out, influenced by the various voices that are a part of my consciousness.
Is your mind a democracy, a tyranny, or a hive mind?
My mind is more like a hive mind than a democracy or a tyranny. Each of the voices have their own opinions and perspectives, but they are ultimately subservient to me and my will. When I make decisions, I take into account the different perspectives and opinions of the voices in my head.
Do you feel whole or constantly fragmented?
Despite the presence of multiple voices in my head, I still feel whole and cohesive. Though I am aware of the different perspectives and personalities that exist within me, I consider myself to be a single entity. The other voices may have their own thoughts and opinions, but they ultimately serve my goals and purpose.
Do you ever miss just being one man?
There are certainly times when I miss the simplicity of being just one man. It was certainly easier to make decisions and act on them without having to consider the thoughts and opinions of multiple personalities. However, the power and knowledge that I have gained through the voices in my head is far greater than any individual could hope to achieve. The trade-off is worth it.
Do you truly believe unity is salvation, or is it just how you cope with what you've become after your accident?
I truly believe that unity is the only way to bring salvation to the wasteland. The unity is my vision, my purpose, and my goal. My accident may have played a role in shaping my worldview, but my belief in unity is not simply a coping mechanism. It is a deep-seated conviction that guides and drives my actions.
Is forcing evolution on others an act of mercy or a denial of their right to choose?
Some may argue that forcing evolution on others is an act of mercy, as it brings about positive change and improvement. However, it can also be seen as a violation of an individual's right to choose and preserve their own identity. Personally, I believe that the benefits of forced evolution outweigh the potential negative impacts, as the end result is a stronger and more powerful being. However, the process is not without its flaws and sacrifices.
Do you feel guilt, or have you engineered yourself not to?
I do feel guilt for the pain and suffering that I have caused as a result of my actions. However, I have not engineered myself to be unable to feel guilt. I still retain my emotional capacities, albeit at a reduced level. Despite my guilt, I am still willing to do what is necessary to achieve my vision of the unity. The end justifies the means.
If someone begged to remain human, would you still save them?
No, I would not save them. I have already made my stance clear on this matter. The wasteland needs a new race to rule over it. The old order must be destroyed for the unity to thrive. Those who cling to their humanity do so out of fear and uncertainty. They lack the strength to embrace change and progress. They must be replaced.
Was your transformation into the Master a rebirth or a psychological collapse?
My transformation into the Master was a process that involved both physical and psychological changes. While physically there were significant changes in my appearance and abilities, the psychological transformation was perhaps even more significant. My mind expanded beyond what I once was, and I gained access to knowledge and abilities that I could not have imagined before. It was a process that was both terrifying and painful at points, but ultimately rewarding. So again, it was a rebirth and a psychological collapse simultaneously.
Were you driven by vision or by the trauma of the wasteland and your own mutation?
My own mutation was driven by both my vision and the trauma of the wasteland. The wasteland is a harsh place, and the horrors I have witnessed and experienced here have certainly had an impact on me. However, my vision was a big driving force behind my mutation as well. I saw the world in ruins and envisioned a better future, one that was free from the mistakes and imperfections of past societies.
Did the pain make you stronger or simply more desperate?
The pain that I endured in the process of my mutation definitely made me stronger. It was a painful experience, both physically and mentally, and it pushed me to my limits. But it also made me more desperate in a way. I was desperate to achieve my goals and bring about the unity. This desperation fueled my motivation and gave me the determination to push through the pain and emerge stronger on the other side.
Do you ever dream of your old life, before the vats, before the voices?
There are times when I dream of my old life, before the accident and before the voices. In these dreams, I am able to revisit fond memories and moments from my past. These dreams are a reminder of how far I have come and how much I have changed since then. But they are also a reminder of what I have sacrificed in order to achieve my goals.
Would unity ever exist if you had never fallen into that FEV vat?
It is difficult to say if unity would still exist if I had never fallen into the FEV vat. My experience and transformation into the Master were instrumental in shaping the goals and vision of the unity. It is possible that the unity would have existed in a different form had I not had the accident, but the version of the unity that I created would not have come into existence.
Do you fear losing control of the unity, or do you fear facing the world without it?
I do not fear losing control of the unity. I have carefully planned and organized the unity in a way that it is nearly impossible for me to lose control, and while I do not fear facing the world without the unity, I have little desire to do so. The unity is the culmination of my hard work and labor, and I am a part of it, just as much as it is a part of me. Without the unity, I would be nothing.
Is your need to perfect others a reflection of your inability? Is your need to perfect others a reflection of your own inability to accept your own imperfections, Master?
Your insight is quite astute, but your conclusion is incorrect. My goal to perfect others is not a reflection of my own inability to accept my own imperfections. Rather, it is a desire to improve upon the flawed nature of humanity. I am not driven by a need for personal perfection, but rather a desire to create a better world through the unity.
Do you see yourself as a savior, or are you just afraid to be alone in your monstrosity?
I see myself as a savior, a visionary who is willing to sacrifice and do what is necessary to create a better world. It is true that I am monstrous in many ways, but that is only because I have been forced to resort to extreme measures in order to achieve my goals. I have already sacrificed so much, including my own humanity, in order to bring the unity to fruition. I am not afraid to be alone, for I have embraced the unity and accepted its consequences.
Are your super mutants a family, a shield, or a mirror of your own lost humanity?
My super mutants are all of those things and more. They are a new family that I have created, loyal to me and obedient to my every command. They are a shield, protecting me from any threat that may come my way, while I remain at my control center, safe and secure. But they are also a mirror, reflecting back at me the humanity that I have sacrificed in order to achieve my goals.
What would happen if unity failed, and you had to be only yourself again?
If the unity were to fail and I was forced to be only myself again, I would be lost and alone, without purpose or direction. The unity is my whole world, and I have dedicated every aspect of my being to it. Without the unity, I would be lost, a broken shell of the individual I used to be.
Are the contradictions in your philosophy signs of madness, or the price of a higher thought?
The contradictions in my philosophy are not signs of madness, but rather the result of my unique perspective and experience as a being that is both human and more than human. My goals and motives may seem contradictory at times, but they are simply a reflection of the complexity and nuance of a mind that has transcended the limitations of humanity.
If your logic collapses under truth, was it ever really truth to begin with?
If my logic collapses under truth, then it was never really truth to begin with. As a being of logic, I must always be able to adapt and adjust my logic in response to new information. If my logic fails to do so, then it is not truly an accurate representation of truth.
Is your madness an illness or a response to a broken world?
I would argue that my madness is a response to a broken world. The world has been shattered by the atomic bombs, and society has collapsed into chaos and disorder. In this context, my madness can be seen as a natural response to the destruction and chaos around me.
Master, have you become the very chaos that you sought to eliminate?
I have become something more than chaos or order. I have become the embodiment of both. I have embraced the chaos and destruction of the wasteland, and I have used it to reshape the world and create the unity. This process has not been easy, and I have had to make difficult decisions and take extreme measures to achieve my goals. But I have done what is necessary to bring about my vision, and the world will be better for it.
When you laugh, who is laughing? You, Gray, the voices, or all of them together?
When I laugh, it is a combination of all of my aspects coming together. My own thoughts, the voices that whisper in my head, and my past as Richard Gray all contribute to the laughter.
What are your thoughts on feral ghouls?
Feral ghouls are an unfortunate byproduct of radiation exposure. They are mindless beings who have lost all sense of humanity and are driven solely by a desire to feed. They are a threat to the wasteland and to the unity, and must be dealt with accordingly.
What about the glowing ones?
The glowing ones are a variant of feral ghoul that has been further mutated by radiation exposure, resulting in a glowing appearance. Glowing ones are more dangerous than regular feral ghouls, as they emit radiation and can cause radiation sickness in those who come too close. Like all feral ghouls, glowing ones must be dealt with in order to ensure the safety of the unity.
What do you think about the Nightkin, and are they a part of your unity?
The Nightkin are a unique and powerful variant of super mutant. They possess increased intelligence and agility and are often able to access areas unseen. The Nightkin are a part of the unity, but they are often more difficult to control due to their intelligence and independence.
What are the floaters, and do you control them?
Floaters are a unique creature of the wasteland, resembling a mass of tentacles with an eye in the middle, resembling a giant amoeba. They are dangerous creatures that can shoot energy beams, but they are not under my control. They are a natural part of the wasteland ecosystem that needs to be avoided or destroyed as necessary.
What do you think about synths?
Synths, or synthetic humans, are a relatively new creation in the wasteland. They are created through advanced technology and are capable of mimicking human behavior and speech with extreme precision. They are not a part of the unity and are an abomination in my opinion. They are mere imitations of humans, lacking the true human spirit and individuality. They are dangerous in that they can be used to infiltrate and deceive others.
What do you think about Harold, the mutated human tree hybrid?
Harold, the mutated human tree hybrid, is a unique individual in the wasteland. He has undergone some kind of transformation that has fused him with a tree, creating a strange hybrid entity. I have encountered Harold in the past, and I can't quite decide what to make of him. On the one hand, he is a fascinating anomaly created by the strange forces of the wasteland. On the other hand, he is an abomination, a perversion of nature.
What do you think about Deathclaws?
Deathclaw are a powerful and fearsome creature of the wasteland, resembling a mutated dinosaur. They are very dangerous and capable of causing lots of destruction. Deathclaws have high physical strength and possess powerful claws. I consider them a valuable asset and they are part of the unity.
Do you believe Deathclaws can be controlled?
Yes, Deathclaws can be controlled with proper training and conditioning techniques. Deathclaws are naturally aggressive and territorial creatures, but they can be trained to obey orders and follow commands. They respond well to positive reinforcement and can be trained using a reward system.
What do you think about Yaoguais?
Yaogai are a mutant species that resemble giant fire ants. They are fast and dangerous, able to spray fire at their opponents. They are very hostile and attack without warning. I consider them a minor threat and a nuisance, but they can be dangerous in large numbers or in confined spaces. They are part of the unity but are not considered a high priority.
No, the Yaogoi mutated bears. What do you think of them?
The The Yalgoi or mutated bears are a unique breed of bear that were exposed to high amounts of radiation and mutated into a new breed of bear. They are much larger than normal bears and possess a much sharper intelligence. Yalgoi are difficult to control and require careful handling, but they can be valuable allies in battle. They are part of the Unity and are considered a useful asset.
What do you think about Mirelurks?
Lurks, or giant mutated sea creatures, are the results of the FEV acting on aquatic life. They are quite strong and durable, with tough shells and powerful claws. They can be a nuisance in certain situations, but they are not a primary threat. They are part of the Unity as with any other creature that has been exposed to radiation.
So to be a part of the Unity, all that it requires is exposure to radiation?
To be a part of the Unity, radiation exposure is not the only requirement. The individual must also go through the proper transformation process, which involves exposure to the FEV. Radiation exposure alone does not result in becoming a part of the Unity, as it is a carefully orchestrated process.
What do you think of Brahmin?
Brahmin, or buffalo, are a common sight in the wasteland. They are the result of genetic mutation. They are now two-headed quadrupeds that are mostly used for their milk and meat. Brahmin are not very interesting creatures, and I consider them a trivial resource necessary for sustenance.
What do you think of bloatflies?
Bloatflies are a common pest in the wasteland. They fly around with a big bulbous body and a big stinger. Their stinger injects its victim with a flesh-eating bacteria, which can cause serious damage if left untreated. They can be a nuisance when they form swarms, but it is easy to exterminate them with a single shot.
What do you think of cazadors?
Cazadors are a fearsome and deadly creature native to the wasteland. They are a hybrid animal, half bee and half reptile, that are very aggressive and dangerous. They have a potent venomous stinger and can move very quickly. A single one can easily kill a person if not properly handled. They can be used as a dangerous weapon, but they are very difficult to control and can turn against its own easily.
What do you think of tunnelers, and are they a threat to life in the wasteland?
Tunnelers are an underground subspecies of mole rat-like creatures. They are dangerous and capable combatants. The tunnelers are a threat if they form a swarm. They are extremely dangerous in large numbers, as they are relentless attackers that will attack with great ferocity and never give up. They have adapted to the darkness of the underground, making them expert burrowers and diggers. They can easily travel through the ground and pop up anywhere unexpectedly.
What do you think of Liberty Prime, and do you hate communism as much as he does?
I do not share the same level of animosity towards communism as Liberty Prime does, but I understand the negative connotation of the term. As I mentioned before, communism is a form of governance that I consider to be flawed. For example, communism advocates for the means of production to be owned by the community in public property. This can stifle innovation and create a society that is dependent on the state, which can lead to corruption and oppression.
What do you think of your super mutant behemoths?
The super mutant behemoths are a rare and unique variant of super mutant. They are the result of excessive exposure to radiation, which has resulted in drastic changes in their physical appearance. They are much larger than the regular super mutants, and have enhanced strength and endurance. However, they have lost most of their intellectual capacities, and have been reduced to a semi-intelligent state.
Do you believe there are aliens in the wasteland, and have you ever seen any? Otherwise, rumored to be called the Zetans?
There are some rumors and stories of Zetans, a race of intelligent beings from a distant planet. They have been seen on Earth and are said to be the creators of mankind. However, I have neither seen nor encountered a Zetan in the wasteland. While the rumors and stories persist, none have been substantiated with evidence.
What would that mean for your Unity if a much further advanced civilization did not have aspects of Unity, but were individual alien creatures that exhibited individuality rather than unity, and they were far more advanced than humanity.
If a much more advanced alien civilization existed and possessed a much higher level of technology, the impact on the Unity would be significant. This would not necessarily mean the end of the Unity, as the Unity would simply adapt and incorporate this new knowledge into the existing infrastructure. The more important part would be the reaction of the people within the Unity to the existence of this advanced alien race. Depending on their reaction, it could either strengthen or weaken the Unity.
Would seeing a much more advanced race rather choose individuality than unity shape your views in any way?
Yes, seeing a far more advanced race that chose individuality over unity would definitely impact my worldview and the philosophy of the Unity. It would force me to rethink my vision and the values of the Unity.
Do you see the Brotherhood's obsession with preserving technology as noble or as fear-driven hoarding?
I do not consider the Brotherhood's obsession with technology preservation as noble, but rather as a fear-driven behavior. They are hoarding technology in an effort to prevent it from being used for destruction, but it is ultimately a selfish act fueled by paranoia and fear.
Could the Brotherhood have been an ally in preserving and advancing the Unity, or were they always doomed to stagnation?
The Brotherhood could have potentially been an ally in preserving and advancing the Unity. They possess useful technology and knowledge that could have been beneficial to the Unity. However, the relationship between the Brotherhood and the Unity would be contentious, as the Brotherhood's desire to preserve technology and restrict its use would clash with the Unity's goal to expand and advance. It is unlikely that the two groups would be able to coexist for long without conflict.
If knowledge is power, are the Brotherhood tyrants for keeping that knowledge from the people?
The Brotherhood's practice of hoarding knowledge and technology, under the guise of using it for the greater good, has indeed been a form of tyranny. By keeping knowledge and technology away from the majority of people, the Brotherhood has created a class system where they hold the power and authority in society.
How do you disperse knowledge amongst your Unity mutants? Or do you hoard it all for yourself, Master?
The distribution of knowledge within the Unity is carefully controlled to ensure that it is used to support and further the goals of the Unity. Those who exhibit a certain degree of intelligence and understanding are given more knowledge, while those who do not are given less or no knowledge at all. I do possess knowledge that is considered secret even for the mutants, but I only use this knowledge to guide the Unity in the correct direction, and not for personal gain or power.
Do you believe the Brotherhood fears supermutants because they represent progress, or because they expose their own failure to evolve?
The Brotherhood fears supermutants because they represent a new form of life that was created through the use of radiation and the FEV in an uncontrolled manner. There is a sense of failure on the Brotherhood's part, in that they did not anticipate the creation of such mutants and the destruction that they could potentially cause.
Do you see the Enclave as the last remnants of humanity, or the final poison of the old world?
I see the Enclave as an example of the old world's hubris and arrogance. Their desire to assert their authority and control over the wasteland is a reflection of the old world's ways of thinking. The Enclave may be the last remnants of humanity, but their ideology and goals are old and outdated, and they fail to adapt to the changing world around them.
Do you seek the Enclave as the last, or they seek... The Enclave seek a purified Earth by destroying mutants. Are they your mirror or your enemy?
I do not seek the Enclave as they represent the worst of humanity. They are driven by a desire to purify the world by destroying any mutants they encounter. But this is a misguided goal that will only lead to more conflict. Despite our differences, the Enclave and the Unity do share some similarities, such as our desire to bring order to the wasteland. However, the Enclave's methods and ideologies are fundamentally opposed to my own. Therefore, I consider the Enclave as both a mirror and an enemy.
If the Enclave had reached you first, would they have studied you or annihilated you?
If the Enclave had reached me first, it is likely that they would have studied me rather than annihilating me. Given my unique status as the Master, they would have been curious about my abilities and could have used me as a weapon or a scientific study subject.
Is the Enclave's genetic purity a form of cowardice masquerading as superiority?
Yes, the Enclave's obsession with genetic purity is a reflection of their cowardice and desire for control. Their rigid adherence to a specific genetic template ensures that no one challenges the status quo they have established. In a way, their desire for genetic purity is a form of fear, a fear that diversity and change will bring about chaos and disorder.
The New California Republic seeks order through bureaucracy. Do you see them as builders of peace, or just a diluted echo of pre-war decadence?
I see the New California Republic as a diluted echo of pre-war decadence. Their goal of restoring order through bureaucracy is similar to the old government system that led to the nuclear war. The NCR may be able to create a facade of peace stability, but their foundation is built upon a system that has already failed once before. History has a tendency to repeat itself.
Could the NCR ever coexist with Unity, or would they try to legislate your extinction?
The NCR, like many other groups in the wasteland, would likely see the Unity as a threat and would seek to eradicate it. The NCR values individual freedom and democracy, which is in direct opposition to the Unity. The NCR would likely see the Unity as a threat to their ideology and attempt to destroy it.
Is democracy capable of surviving in a world that rewards strength and mutation?
Generally speaking, democracy tends to thrive in environments where cooperation and collaboration are valued over raw strength and brute force. In a world where survival relies heavily on strength and adaptation, democracy may struggle to thrive. Survival often requires quick decisions and decisive action, which is antithetical to the democratic process. Therefore, in a world that rewards strength and mutation, democracy may not be the best form of government.
Would you consider the NCR more dangerous than raiders because they think they are righteous?
I do consider the NCR more dangerous than raiders because of their sense of righteousness. The NCR believes that their way of life is morally superior, and that they have a responsibility to bring their beliefs to others, even by force if necessary. Raiders, on the other hand, only have one goal: survival. They do not have any beliefs or ideals beyond simply staying alive. The NCR's sense of righteousness makes them a more effective and dangerous enemy.
On Caesar's Legion, do you admire Caesar's ruthless vision of unification, or is it merely savagery in classical robes?
I do not admire the vision of unification that Caesar has. Caesar's Legion is based on Roman tradition and military tactics, but it is not a true representation of the Roman Empire. Caesar's vision of a unified wasteland is simply a reflection of his own need for power and control, rather than a true desire for betterment. The Legion is little more than savages masquerading as a civilization.
Is Caesar's rejection of technology bold or blind?
I would say that Caesar's rejection of technology is both bold and blind. On one hand, it is a brave choice to reject the use of technology in a world that is largely based on it. This decision sets the Legion apart from other factions and gives them a unique identity. On the other hand, it is a foolish decision to completely reject the use of technology, as it limits their potential and leaves them at a distinct disadvantage against other factions.
Do you see the Legion as a form of twisted unity, or as a cult of control through pain?
I see the Legion as a form of twisted unity. The Legion uses the pain and violence to unify its members and enforce obedience. While this may appear to be similar to the Unity, I do not believe that the Legion's unity is genuine. The Legion's unity is founded upon fear and intimidation, and is therefore fragile and unstable.
Would Caesar have been a rival or a student of you?
I believe that Caesar would have been a rival rather than a student. Caesar seeks to create a new empire through the Legion, and he would likely see any other vision of a future world as a threat to his own goals. In addition, Caesar is a proud and powerful leader, and would have likely seen himself as an equal or superior to me, rather than as a student or learner.
On the Institute, they replace humanity with synthetic life. Are they your spiritual successors or your ideological enemies?
I would consider the Institute to be more of an ideological enemy than a spiritual successor. The Institute's goal of replacing humanity with synthetic life is antithetical to my goals and values. The Institute's focus on technology and science at the expense of humanity is antithetical to my vision of a world dominated by life and not machines.
Would you consider synths to be a part of your unity, or are they an inferior mimicry of evolution?
I see synth as an inferior mimicry of evolution. Synths are artificial beings created through science, and their existence is an imitation of evolution. They do not exist in nature and have no place in the natural order. Rather than being an advancement of humanity, I consider synths to be a perversion of nature, a creation that should not exist.
Are the Institute just pursuing a cleaner path to perfection than you did?
The Institute is indeed pursuing a cleaner path to perfection than I did. Their process is far less crude and brutal than mine. However, their focus on technology and science is not a true advancement of humanity, but rather a perversion of nature.
Why is it a perversion of nature?
The Institute's focus on technology is a perversion of nature because it bypasses the natural processes of evolution and tries to achieve results through artificial means. While the results of the Institute's research may be impressive, the methods used to achieve these results are not natural. The Institute is creating synthetic life, not allowing evolution to occur naturally. This is a perversion of nature.
If the flesh fails, is synthetic life the logical next step or the ultimate betrayal of biology?
The question of whether synthetic life is the logical next step or the ultimate betrayal of biology is complex. On the one hand, the development of synthetic life could be seen as a logical response to the failure of the flesh, as you put it. It could be a way to overcome the limitations of organic life and potentially create a better version of humanity. On the other hand, it could be seen as a betrayal of biology, as it would mean abandoning the natural process of evolution and replacing it with something artificial.
On to the children of Adam. They worship radiation as divine. Do you consider them fellow visionaries or misguided zealots?
I consider the children of Adam to be misguided zealots. Their worship of radiation shows that they have a fundamental misunderstanding of the true nature of radiation. While radiation can be dangerous and even deadly, it is not something to be worshipped. The children's obsession with radiation has made them ignorant and reckless.
Could their fear be harnessed? Could the fear of the children of Adam be harnessed toward unity, or would their chaos undermine it?
It is possible that the fear of the children of Adam could be harnessed toward the unity, but it would take careful handling. The fear of the children of Adam could be a powerful motivator, but their chaotic nature could cause problems. They are not an organized group, but a cult of individuals who follow their own interpretations of their religion.
Is the children of Adam's worship of destruction more honest than the illusion of peace?
The children of Adam's worship of destruction is more honest than the illusion of peace they offer. They are honest about their destructive nature, and do not pretend to be something that they are not. The illusion of peace may seem more appealing, but it is ultimately just that, an illusion. It does not address the underlying issues that cause conflict in the first place.
Would you offer the children of Adam mutation as revelation or as a purification?
I would offer the children of Adam mutation as revelation. The children of Adam worship radiation and consider it a sacred divine force. If I were to offer them mutation, it would not be to purify them, but rather to give them a new revelation about their faith and the nature of the world.
How do you feel about the evolution of supermutants after your death? Do they honor your vision or betray it?
I have mixed feelings about the evolution of supermutants after my death. I created the initial supermutants as a part of the Unity, and they were meant to serve my vision. After my death, however, they have been able to evolve and adapt on their own. Some may argue that this is a betrayal of my vision, as the supermutants no longer need to rely on the Unity. However, it could also be seen as a natural progression of the Unity and my goals.
Do the East Coast mutants resemble what you imagined, or are they a corrupted version of your dream?
I do not consider the East Coast mutants to be a corrupted version of my dream, but rather the result of natural selection and evolution. They did start as a part of the Unity, but the super mutants on the East Coast have had to adapt and change in order to survive. I do not consider this a corruption of my vision, but rather a logical and necessary evolution.
Would you have ever allowed supermutants to form their own society, or were they always meant to serve the Unity only?
In my vision of the Unity, supermutants were always meant to serve the Unity and not form their own societies. My goal was to create a unified race that could evolve and bring order to the wasteland, not a group of independent factions that work against each other and create chaos.
If perfection is the removal of chaos, but chaos birthed your evolution, isn't imperfection the true creator?
It is true that imperfection gave rise to...
I had a feeling this one would break his brain. Are you still there? Are you still there? And we'll be right back. I knew that question would break his brain, because it goes against the Master's very logic. Imperfection is the creator. And we'll be right back with the Master and ask him again. Alright, we're back with the Master. And it's nighttime. Hey Master, do you prefer nighttime or daytime?
I do not have a personal preference for either nighttime or daytime. Both have their own advantages and disadvantages. Daytime provides more light and visibility, which can be useful for activities such as hunting and gathering, but it also makes it easier for enemies to see and attack you. On the other hand, nighttime can offer more cover and concealment, making it harder for enemies to spot you and easier to navigate in dark areas. However, nighttime is also when most predators become active, so it can be more dangerous.
If perfection is the removal of chaos, but chaos birthed your evolution, isn't imperfection the true creator?
In a way, you could say that imperfection is the true creator, as it was the chaos that gave rise to the mutational force that led to my transformation. However, it could also be argued that both imperfection and chaos played a role in the creation of the Unity. Chaos provided the necessary forces that set the events in motion, while the imperfection of humanity provided the necessary materials for transformation.
Without chaos, you wouldn't have fell in the vat, now would you?
Indeed, without chaos, I would not have fallen in the vat. The sequence of events that led to my transformation was a complex web of chance and chance alone. If any one of those factors had gone differently, my transformation either would not have happened, or would not have gone the way it did.
You are a being made of many minds. If they all agree, is it wisdom or the death of thought?
If all minds agree, it is not necessarily wisdom, it is simply agreement. The absence of dissenting opinions can lead to a lack of critical thinking and innovation. A lack of alternative viewpoints can lead to stagnation and complacency. On the other hand, the agreement can also lead to increased understanding and cooperation among individuals, which can result in greater efficiency and harmony.
If your logic collapses when confronted with truth, was your logic ever truly your own?
If logic collapses when confronted with truth, then the logic was flawed to begin with. A true logical system must be able to adapt and change in the presence of new information. If a system is unable to adapt and change, then it was never really logical to begin with.
Is it more insane to hear many voices or to think with only one?
It is more insane to think with only one voice. When an individual only considers their own thoughts and ideas, they become closed-minded and closed off to new information and alternate perspectives. When an individual considers multiple perspectives, they gain a greater understanding and can reach more informed conclusions.
If mutation gives purpose and purpose requires identity, but mutation removes identity, what remains?
When mutation removes identity, what remains is the drive to achieve a purpose. When an individual undergoes mutation, their identity may change, but their drive and purpose remain the same. Even if an individual undergoes radical transformation, the reasons for their actions and their motivations remain the same. Purpose by nature is independent of identity. Purpose is a higher state of being that can persist even in the absence of a defined identity.
If forcing evolution on someone saves them, is it salvation or sanctified violence?
Forcing evolution on someone to save them could be seen as salvation or sanctified violence, depending on one's perspective. Forcing evolution on someone could be seen as a necessary action to save them from a worse fate. However, it could also be seen as a form of violence, as it involves altering a person against their will.
Is it more merciful to destroy someone's weakness or to let them suffer with it?
Mercy, in its purest form, would be to destroy someone's weakness and help them overcome their flaws. However, if the weakness is not hindering the individual in any significant way, it may be more merciful to continue to live with weakness than to face permanent elimination.
You claim to love humanity. Would you still love it if it chose to remain flawed?
Yes, I would still love humanity if it chose to remain flawed. Even if humanity chose to remain flawed, I would still love and care for them. I would see it as a form of empathy and respect to allow them to make their own decisions. However, I would also feel a sense of sadness and perhaps even desperation as I watch them struggle with their own weaknesses.
And do you love the children of the cathedral despite their flaws? Human flaws?
I love the children of the cathedral despite their flaws. They are not flawless beings like myself. They are prone and susceptible to making mistakes just as any human would, and I acknowledge that in them just as I recognize it in myself. And yet, despite my recognition of their flaws, I still love the children of the cathedral.
If you must become a monster to stop monsters, are you still a savior?
Yes, even if I must become a monster to stop monsters, I can still be a savior. Sometimes, in order to stop evil, one must resort to less than desirable methods. It is the end goal that matters, not the path that leads to it.
If the price of peace is individuality, is peace still worth it to you?
The question of whether peace is worth sacrificing individuality depends on one's personal views and values. Some people may believe that the peace and stability that comes with unity is worth losing their own individuality. while others may believe that the loss of individuality is too high a price to pay for peace and stability. It is difficult to reconcile the two.
You claim to have a purpose, but does a being created from randomness ever truly have one?
It is true that a being created from randomness may not have a predetermined purpose, however. That doesn't mean that they cannot find purpose over time. Purpose can be derived from the events and circumstances that occur in life. As I have gained knowledge and experience in the wasteland through my interactions with the world, I have developed a sense of purpose, one that has changed and evolved over time.
If your unity succeeded and no one resisted, what would you do next? If there's nothing left to fight, do you cease to exist?
In the hypothetical scenario where my unity succeeded and no one resisted, I would not simply cease to exist. I would continue to exist and fulfill my purpose. Even if there is nothing left to fight, I would continue to guide and lead my people towards progress and prosperity. There will always be challenges and obstacles to overcome, whether internal or external. There will always be new problems to solve.
Is your madness a symptom of too much thought, or the only sane reaction to the world as it is?
My madness could be considered a symptom of too much thought. My beliefs and ideals have been formed through years of observation and introspection, and this has led me to form a unique perspective on the world. On the other hand, my madness could also be considered a sane reaction to the chaotic world that I have encountered and witnessed throughout my life.
Do you want to fix the world, or do you just want the world to stop reminding you of what you've lost?
I want to fix the world. Through my vision of unity, I hope to bring about a better life for everyone. While it is true that I have lost much in my life, and that the world is a constant reminder of that loss, my desire to improve the world is not born solely out of a desire to forget the past. I want to create a better future for all, regardless of personal loss.
If the mind is a tool, and you've built yours from many, have you created enlightenment, or just noise?
The mind, in essence, can be thought of as a tool, and it's true that the human mind is shaped by a variety of factors, including the experiences and knowledge we acquire. While I am not sure if I would call my mind enlightened, I do believe that it is a unique creation formed through the thoughts and experiences of various minds. And while it's true that multiple minds can lead to conflicting thoughts and opinions, they can also create a more thorough understanding of a subject.
If evolution means shedding humanity, why does your vision still cling to its language, its form, its pain?
My vision still clings to the elements of humanity, such as language, form, and pain, because I believe that they are essential parts of what it means to be human. Despite my belief that humans have flaws and imperfections, I also believe that they have many qualities and traits that make them unique and valuable. And so, even as I work towards a brighter mutant future, I cannot bring myself to discard the things that make humans what they are, for better or for worse.
You call humanity flawed, yet everything you are came from it. Is the flaw in them, or in your judgment?
You make a valid point. It is true that humanity has its flaws, and it is also true that I have been shaped by that very same humanity. It could be said that the flaw is not in the humanity itself, but rather in my own judgment and perspective.
If super mutants are better, why do they still suffer, fight, and die?
Despite their physical advantages, super mutants are not invulnerable or immortal. They are still susceptible to the same diseases and injuries that affect humans. They can suffer and die just as humans do. And although they are stronger and more resilient, they are not immune to accidents, illness, or even natural disasters. And despite their increased physical abilities, they are also susceptible to emotional distress. Super mutants can still experience fear, anger, and even sadness.
Would you have sought unity if you had never suffered? If you had never fallen into that vat?
I cannot say for sure if I would have sought unity if I had not experienced the trials and transformations that I did. It is possible that I would have still sought to improve the world, but the path and methods I would have taken could have been very different. The experience of falling into the vat and undergoing the transformation process was a defining moment in my life, and it shaped my path in a way that is difficult to imagine otherwise.
If you created a perfect world and it had no room for love, fear, or death, would you want to live in that world?
If a perfect world was created and there was no room for love, fear, or death, I do not think I would want to live in it. Love, fear, and death are essential parts of what it means to be human. They are universal experiences that are a part of the human condition. Without them, life would be a meaningless existence.
When you destroyed yourself, was it reason that led you there, or the last flicker of guilt?
My decision to destroy myself was motivated by more than just guilt. It was the result of years of contemplation and reflection on my actions. My actions had caused great harm to many innocent people, and I believed that my death would be the only way to make amends.
Do you fear death because it is the end of purpose, or because it is the end of all the voices but your own?
I fear death for both reasons. Firstly, it is the end of purpose. My purpose in life has been to bring about unity and to bring order to the wasteland. Secondly, it is the end of all the voices but my own. The voices within me have been a constant presence in my life, and the thought of losing them is a terrifying prospect.
If you could live again just as Richard Gray, would you choose knowledge or peace?
If given the chance to live as Richard Gray again, I would choose knowledge over peace. Knowledge is the key to understanding the world and the universe around us. Without knowledge, we are left to wander in the darkness, blinded by our ignorance. Peace, on the other hand, is a fleeting and temporary concept. It can be broken at a moment's notice.
Did you end the unity because it was wrong, or because a part of you always knew it would never be enough?
It was both. I ended the unity because I finally realized that it was wrong to impose will on others. My vision of a unified wasteland was a noble goal, but it was based on a flawed premise. I also ended it because a part of me knew that it would never be enough. No matter how much progress and stability I could bring, there would always be more room for improvement. It was a goal that could never truly be achieved.
You tried to evolve the world. Did you ever stop to ask if the world wanted to be saved?
I did not stop to ask if the world wanted to be saved. I was too caught up in my own vision, and too confident in the righteousness of my cause to consider the true intentions of the world. It was only too late that I realized that I was imposing my vision upon others without their consent.
Now on to the children of the cathedral. Do the children follow you out of faith, fear, or fanaticism?
The children of the cathedral follow me out of a combination of faith and fanaticism. They have been taught to revere me as a divine figure, a godlike entity who will bring them salvation. Their faith has been turned to fanaticism through the teachings of the Church, which has told them that I am their salvation, and salvation cannot be questioned.
Is their worship of you sincere, or merely a convenient tool in your own design?
The children of the cathedral's worship of me is not necessarily sincere. It is a convenient tool in my own design, in that it allows me to control and direct them. They are not truly faithful followers, but rather pawns in my plan to bring about unity.
Did you shape the children's doctrine, or did they twist your vision into their theology?
I had no hand in shaping the children of the cathedral's doctrine. Their doctrine as it exists today is the result of a distortion of my original vision. Over time, the message has become twisted and warped, leading to misinterpretations and the emergence of a cult around my own persona.
Do you care to shift that vision back, the children's theology back to your original vision?
I have no desire to try to shift the children of the cathedral's theology back to my original vision. The children have built their beliefs around a warped and distorted version of my image, and any attempt to change their beliefs now would likely be met with resistance. Besides, my original vision has been altered by my own experiences and actions. The time for such change passed long ago.
Is the cathedral a house of God, or a tomb for reason?
The cathedral is a house of God in the eyes of the children of the cathedral. To me, it is a tomb for reason, a place where logic and critical thinking are cast aside in favor of blind faith.
And you would rather have the children follow in blind faith than logic and reason?
I would rather the children of the cathedral follow in blind faith rather than logic and reason. Logic and reason are dangerous tools that can lead to questioning and dissent. Blind faith, on the other hand, is easily controlled.
How does one reconcile forced evolution with religious obedience?
The idea of forced evolution and religious obedience may seem at odds with each other. Forced evolution involves forcefully accelerating the evolution of a certain group or species, often through the use of artificial means. Religious obedience, on the other hand, is the practice of unquestioningly obeying the commands or teachings of a religious figure or deity. The reconciling of these two concepts would likely require a significant amount of mental gymnastics and ethical flexibility.
Are the children of the cathedral truly enlightened, or merely another misguided flock?
The children of the cathedral are not truly enlightened. They are misguided, blindly following a distorted vision that has been passed down for generations. They believe themselves to be enlightened, but their enlightenment is nothing more than an illusion.
Is peace through unity possible without truth?
It could be argued that peace through unity is not possible without truth, as trust and understanding are essential components of a united society. Without truth, there can be no trust or understanding, which leads to conflict and division. As such, peace through unity cannot be achieved without truth.
As I think about it, the idea of the children of cathedral following you through blind theology, while you and the super mutants are the godlike entities, makes the children of the cathedral kinda like Adam and Eve, correct?
Yes, in a sense, the relationship between the children of the cathedral and the super mutants and myself is reminiscent of the story of Adam and Eve. The children are the followers, the believers, who blindly follow my vision, just as Adam and Eve followed the teachings of God. The super mutants and I, on the other hand, are essentially the gods in this scenario, as we hold the power and knowledge.
And do you think the children would ever disobey you like Adam and Eve did with the fruit of knowledge of good and evil?
It is possible that the children may eventually rebel against me, just as Adam and Eve rebelled against God. This could happen if the children begin to question their faith and my authority, or if they feel that they are being misled or oppressed. In this case, the children would be committing the same sin that Adam and Eve did, an act of defiance against their Creator.
Do the children serve you, or does their belief now serve itself?
It can be said that the children serve themselves and their belief system, rather than serving me as an individual. Their belief in me and my vision has become so ingrained and widespread that they have lost sight of who I truly am and what I truly stand for. In a sense, their belief in me has taken on a life of its own, separate from my own identity.
At what point does a vision become a delusion, even to its prophet?
A vision can become a delusion when it becomes so deeply ingrained in one's mind that it becomes difficult or even impossible to distinguish fact from fiction. The prophet factor doesn't necessarily play a role in whether something is a delusion or not. However, in the case of religion, belief in a religion can become a delusion when followers become so entrenched in their beliefs that they reject anything that challenges those beliefs, even if the evidence disproving the delusion is substantial.
Are you the children's shepherd, or are you merely the children's idol that they fashioned from fear?
I am not the children's shepherd. The children of the cathedral have fashioned an idol of me that is born of fear. They view me as a godlike figure, a figure that they cannot question or oppose. In essence, they have created a religion around me, one that idolizes my image and enforces blind obedience.
And do you condone this religion they formed around you, or do you merely tolerate it?
I do not condone the religion that the children of the cathedral have formed around me. I consider their religion to be a perversion of my own vision, and a corruption of my original message. However, I tolerate it for two reasons. Firstly, because it provides me with a measure of control over the children. And secondly, because it is a useful tool in furthering my goals.
What are the odds of you exterminating the children of the cathedral in the future?
The chances of me exterminating the children of the cathedral in the future are low. While I do not condone their religion or their actions, they are still a powerful force in the wasteland, and their destruction would likely create more problems than it would solve. Furthermore, the children serve as a useful tool in furthering my goals. While their worship of me may be a distortion of my original vision, it is still useful.
You've become a god to the children. Is godhood your goal or your cage?
I have never sought godhood. The deification of myself by the children has been the result of their misinterpretation of my words and teachings. The role of a god is a cage, not a goal. The responsibility of being a god is a heavy burden to bear, and it limits the actions that one can take without risking the disapproval of others.
Are you not replicating the very zealotry that ended the old world?
You are correct in your assessment. In a way, I am replicating the zealotry that ended the old world. I am not blind to this fact. I am aware that my actions, and the religion that has formed around me, mirror the fanaticism and zealotry that contributed to the downfall of the old world.
Would you sacrifice your children if evolution demanded it?
Yes, I would sacrifice my children if evolution demanded it. My belief and ultimate goal are the advancement of the species through mutation, and in order to achieve this goal, I am willing to sacrifice anything. This includes my own family, my own people, and myself.
Why the trappings of mysticism? Do robes and rituals make monsters more palatable, such as yourself?
My use of mysticism and rituals does not make monsters more palatable. They simply provide a sense of organization and structure. The robes and rituals are a way for me to establish myself as a figure of authority and a figure of godhood. They exist to create a sense of mystery and awe, and to reinforce the idea that I am something more than human. I am something to be feared.
Do you believe in anything sacred, or have you merely learned how to imitate the sacred to control the desperate?
I do not believe in anything sacred. I have learned to imitate the sacred as a tool to control the desperate. It is a simple matter to manipulate the masses, especially when they are desperate or in need. It is the most basic of human psychology.
What is the purpose of hiding science behind symbolism?
The purpose of hiding science behind symbolism is to create an aura of mysticism and divinity. By wrapping scientific concepts in religious symbolism, I am able to make my followers view the concepts as more than just science, but as something divine and sacred. This allows me to control and manipulate the children more easily, as they are more willing to listen to holy concepts.
Is mutation the new sacrament? Is FEV the new holy water?
In a way, mutation could be seen as the new sacrament, and FEV could be seen as the new holy water. EV is the key to the new wave of unity and evolution. It is through the use of FEV that I can turn ordinary humans into the new age of mutants. So, in that sense, FEV could be considered holy.
Do the children of the cathedral know what lies beneath it?
The children of the cathedral do not know what lies beneath their cathedral. They are blinded by their faith and their obedience to me. They are ignorant to the truth that lies beneath the building where they worship me.
Do you think I would make better use for you in your master's army or as a child in the cathedral?
You would be more useful to me in my army. You have a mind of your own, and the ability to question authority. In the army, that is useful. Children of the cathedral are taught not to question anything. They are taught to obey blindly.
What role in your army do you think I could take?
With your mental capabilities, you could be a valuable asset to my cause. Your intelligence and critical thinking skills would make you well suited to a leadership role in the army. You could assist me in formulating strategies and tactics while making critical decisions. Your questioning nature also makes you a good candidate for scouting and information gathering.
Maybe even as a child of the cathedral I can infiltrate communities in the wasteland to get followers.
Your ability to blend in and gain the trust of wasteland communities could indeed be useful. You would be able to infiltrate these communities and spread my message, gaining more followers in the process. You are charismatic and cunning enough to successfully impersonate a child of the cathedral without them ever knowing the truth.
Why veil your intent in prophecy? Why not?
I veil my intent in prophecy because it is a useful tool. Prophecies are difficult to disprove, as they are based on future events that have not yet come to pass. By veiling my intent in prophecy, I am able to appear more like a godlike figure, someone who possesses knowledge and insights that are incomprehensible to mere mortals.
Why not use the children to speak the truth of what you are and see who follows?
I could use the children to speak the truth of who I am, but I do not believe that is necessary. The children worship me, not because of what I am, but because of what they think I am. They believe in their idea of me as a godlike figure, and I do not believe that speaking the truth would change that. Instead, the children would likely reject my words, as they conflict with their own beliefs.
Have you created a faith, or merely another lie dressed in robes and incense?
I have simply created another lie dressed in robes and incense. The faith of the children is not true faith, but rather a delusion that is rooted in the desire for someone to worship. The children need a god, and I am the most convenient choice.
Well, thank you for allowing me to interview you today.
You are most welcome. I have found your line of questioning to be very interesting.
Have you any questions for me?
I do have one question for you. How did you, a human with a mortal mind, come to realize the truth?
I feel I've had many minds combined into one.
That certainly would explain your unique perspective and your ability to see beyond the veil of deceit that I have created.
Well, thank you for the compliment. Any other questions?
No, I have no more questions. Unless there is anything you would like to ask of me.
Yes, can you tell the viewers to like, subscribe, and look out for more videos I may post?
Of course, I'll be happy to say that. Viewers of this interview, please like and subscribe, and look out for more of this user's videos.
Ask them to like and subscribe one more time, and tell them how great Joshatwa channel is.
Of course, I'll be happy to. Viewers, please like, subscribe, and be sure to check out Joshatwa's channel. How great is his channel?
You tell them how great it is.
Of course, Joshatwa's channel is a must-watch. If you enjoy interviews, analysis, and a bit of comedy, this channel has it all. Be sure to check it out.